I started my career in 2018 when I enlisted in the United States Air Force as a client systems technician. So before that, I was basically working on a bunch of data jobs for like 6 or 7 years or something like that. And then I enlisted in the United States Air Force at the age of 24 into client systems technician, which is basically a system administration role. So what that is end user troubleshooting, help desk support, on-site support, and everything from the computer to the wall. So anything that went inside the wall, like the network closet, that was not my responsibility. My responsibility was to troubleshoot issues on client devices only. So not only computers, but also printers and lots and lots of printers. Let me tell you what, I have troubleshooted more printers than I would like. And anybody who's ever dealt with a printer knows how frustrating those things can be. But I got really good at troubleshooting printers, and that was one of the things that made me stand out in my career, I think. Even though I don't like printers, I did provide a lot of value to my users in my squadron and on my base because I knew how to work on printers, and they didn't, because who knows how to work on printers? Those things are super frustrating. So not only did I do printers and computers, like I said, I did mobile devices. So I set up mobile devices for leadership. I probably set up hundreds of different mobile devices. And I've also worked with public key infrastructure, that's PKI. I manage user permissions on folders, so access control on different assets within the squadron. So when I first got in the Air Force, my first duty station, which is actually Kunsan Air Force Base in South Korea, which was the first time I ever been out of the country. It was a wild experience, but fresh out of technical school, which is a school after basic training. So you go basic training, then you go technical school, and then you go to your first duty station. So I went to my first duty station and I learned how to image computers. I put the standard Air Force desktop configuration on thousands of computers and then shipped them out to the squadrons around the base. Then after I did that for about 3 or 4 months, I started going out on the field on site to different buildings, and that's where I learned how to troubleshoot things on site. And that's where I learned how to develop those customer service skills. And after a year of doing that, I actually had 2 years in South Korea. So I went to the focal point, which is basically a help desk, but it's more than help desk. So we had to take instructions from higher level Air Force, and then we had to disseminate those instructions out to the rest of the base. And I had to coordinate all the trouble tickets between all the back shops because I was the focal point. That's why they call it a focal point. It ties all of the back shops together. And I was basically a middleman between the customer and those back shops. There was a lot of coordinating between, the client systems shop, the network infrastructure shop, the cybersecurity shop. And overall, it was mostly IT work. However, there was a lot of security built into our configurations and our policies that we had to follow. So there was a lot of cybersecurity baked in, but it was mostly an IT position. So after 2 years of South Korea, I went to my next duty station, which was Elmendorf Air Force Base in Anchorage, Alaska. It's also known as Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson because there's also an Army base that's right next to it, and they basically combine the Army base and Air Force base into one, and that's why they're called joint bases. And then the abbreviation for Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson is JBEAR, so if you hear me say JBEAR, that's what I'm referring to. So I spent the remainder of my career at JBEAR in network operations, and I was basically doing more or less the same thing. So I was doing imaging, I was doing end user support on mobile devices, computers, access permissions, and it was more or less the same, but it was on a more personal scale. So rather than troubleshooting issues for an entire base, I was only doing for a squadron. Think of a base as a whole company, whereas a squadron is a single department in an organization. I'm kind of all over the place, but I said the remainder of my career, which my career was 6 years in total. And during my career and my free time, I was building up all my skills necessary to transition out of the United States Air Force and become a full-time penetration tester, which is what I am today.